Hey there YouTube, welcome back to another bat powder update. Today I've got a couple of things to show you. As far as sort of production goes, I suppose if you include the month as a whole, or last month as a whole, I actually didn't do too bad, because if you count the 2 Canon batteries and the 2 units that I've got for you today, I would say that's pretty good for the way that my painter's block's been affecting me, especially throughout December and January. So let's get started. Let's start off straight away with the finished. I'll just bring them in and then I'll refocus the camera. The finished 69th, which of course on my last update I'd basically finished one stand of. I've got to say, as much as I enjoyed painting them, they really were a bit of a slog to get through these boys, but thanks to me deciding to use my metal command that I had, helped me cut out 4 plastic lads. So let's just position the camera and I'll give you an overall look at them. So here they are, the 69th, and of course I'll give you a sort of closer in look. I was overall fairly chuffed with how these guys came out. Like I said when I first started, I really did enjoy painting the Perry's plastics. You can see that I've got a couple of Warlord guys mixed in there. You can actually see the proper comparison of them, and like I said in my last video, they're pretty much alike, but I do recommend, if you decide to add some yourself, to just give the bottom of the Warlord bases a little bit of a filing down, to make them the same height, and I think they really do sort of fit in quite well in the end. So there's 2 of the, I believe it's 6 or 7 Warlord guys that I'm going to sort of sneak into the 2 battalions. So obviously the 73rd are going to have the biggest amount of them, but I think they're great to just, especially to have in sort of the background. And I'm sure you'll agree, they sort of fit in pretty well. And of course they were real easy to paint in comparison to the Perry's boys, which were, like I say, that sort of 3-stage process is sort of really slows down the painting. I think overall it took me probably about 3 weeks to actually finish these guys. And here's the command group, the 69th. You can see that the sort of the colours there does really quite represent the colour that I mixed up for the facings. And like I say, the metal figures on this particular base are from the Perry's British Command, which I decided to use in the 69th, because originally I was going to use them in the 73rd, but I decided to help try and speed the process up, to give these guys the metal command, because they obviously did paint up a lot quicker than the sort of multi-part plastics. But overall, I'm pretty chuffed with the old the Perry's British Command. I'd say my only gripe is that the officer looks a little bit junior, and is not really sort of regal enough to be a colonel. But that's a very small sort of criticism, really. I think it's a great looking figure, and all the rest of the flag bearers and the sergeant are all great figures. And I was pretty chuffed with how the command stand turned out. So there we go. That's the command stand. Put that down there. And next up, we've got the stand with the drummer. You can see I wasn't 100% sure what colour to paint the drummer for these guys, but I decided to go with the colour of the facings. I think it turned out pretty cool, and decided to give him like a you know, ultra cool black drum face as well, to make them look uber cool. Mixed in with 3 of the other Perry's guys. Of course, the drummer being from the Metal Command as well. I was pretty chuffed with how he came out, actually. So that's the drummer stand. Then we've got the, I suppose the light section. Coming in here. Again, pretty bog standard really, but again, like using all Perrys. I tried to use as many Perrys as I could in this particular battalion. But to tell the truth, you know, it wouldn't have been the end of the world if I snuck another one in, another Warlord guy in, to split them up between the 2 battalions. But you know, I'm although it probably slowed me down a bit, I'm happy that these guys are the majority Perrys, which is what I originally wanted. So next up we have the rear unit behind the command stand. Again, I tried to mix in a few of the old Ramrod guys because I think they're quite a cool position. I think this was actually the first stand that I did. Positions look familiar, that I may have showed you in the last update. Of course, they're already more or less done, apart from having grass on. So that's those guys, and then finally, I did actually decide to put the sapper, or the engineer, onto the Grenadiers stand this time, and yeah, that's cool because obviously I think my first couple of engineers, I decided to put them in the front rank along with the drummer, but this time I decided to save myself the bother of having to try and find a flank company guy and use the sapper or the engineer. So that's that, pretty cool. And that's the 69th. And well, like I say, they took a fair old slog of painting up, but overall I'm pretty happy with them. So now we'll go on to the next item that I've done, and surprisingly, I actually managed to finish the next item in an almost record time in comparison to the 69th. Let me just clear these guys off, and I'll bring in the second item which I've done, and I actually finished them today, so you can't technically say that I finished these within the month, but it's basically another French battalion using basically it's the first box of Perry's, the plastic French Perry's that I had. Again, mixed in with a French command squad, and also mixed in a couple of my officers from Officer Pack that I had. So let's just bring these guys in. I'm pretty chuffed with how these guys turned out, actually. These guys amazingly only took me 5 days, and one of those days I wasn't even painting, so in reality I suppose you could say they only really took me 4 days, which is amazingly fast in comparison to the 3 weeks it took me to do the 69th. And I was really pleased with how these guys came out, and especially with the speed that I managed to turn them out, because the thing that I was kind of worried about is, I mean, I know the big bonus about these guys is that they've got the sort of set rifles, which means you don't have to worry about the multi-posed arms, but I was kind of a little bit worried about the guys without long coats slowing the process down, and in the end they didn't really slow me down that much at all. And I basically painted all these guys as one big lot. You know, basically, stuck them all down onto, me following the norm of using milk bottle and cap lids. Just basically stuck them all down. One of the sort of the nice days, sort of sunny days that we've had lately, I managed to prime them all, and basically got started on them straight away. And like I say, I absolutely, how I managed to get through them so fast is almost baffling to myself. But I'll show you through them. Start off with the with this stand on the end here. So you can see this stand has got a mixture of 3 long coated guys and 1 regular guy without long jacket or long coat. And yes, I did remember to give them the right backpacks. And you can see that there is actually a sneaky warlord guy snuck in there. You can see by the backpack. This guy here is actually a warlord guy, and you can actually tell because he's got a slightly different thing on his helmet there, on his shako. He's got like the roundel rather than the pommel. But yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with how these guys turned out. So that's that stand. Put that over there. We'll work the way through the back. So here's the Grenadier stand, and again, like the British, I decided to put the sapper onto the Grenadier stand to save me having to do to basically find an extra epauletted figure, and I think it worked out pretty cool because it kind of really fits in. You can see that I've decided to choose 3 long-coated guys to make up the Grenadier stand this time, with only the engineer not having his long jacket on, and of course he's got it on his backpack. But yeah, I was pretty chuffed with how the old engineer turned out. I do quite like the old engineers, and I particularly like the fact that he's got the saw-toothed sword, or the saw-toothed sabre, which is pretty cool. So that's the Grenadier stand. Next up, we'll swap it around again, and we'll go for the Voltiers this time. So we've got a stand of the Voltiers, and this time we kind of swapped it around from the Grenadier. So these guys have got 3 guys without long jackets, or without long coats rather, and 1 with. And you can see that again I've sort of free-handed the sort of bugles on the back of their pouches, because I still can't find my transfers. It's really annoying because I've got like loads of them spare from my original light infantry pack, and I can't find them. I'm really not sure what I did with them. But yeah, I was pretty chuffed again with these guys. We've even got a guy with an uncovered shako there. So that's the Voltiers. Okay, next up we got the other rear battalion. So this unit again has got 3 guys without long coats and 1 with. Just spin them around. So that's that. And let's put that there. Next up we go for the drummer. Drummer's base. Just bring that in. Of course, this is the metal drummer from the Metal Command Group. And again, these guys have got 2 long-coated troops. pretty pleased with how the drummer came out actually. And then finally we'll go for the command stand. So let's bring that in. Again, the officers on the stand are from the Perry's officer pack, and this particular guy that's the colonel here is definitely one of my favourite figures from the pack. I think he's an amazing figure, this guy. And the metal, these guys are the 22nd, I believe. Yep, 22nd. And again, I've managed to stick the little information on the bottom there. So again, these guys are from the 3rd Corps 10th Division, of which most of my French are from the 1st or the 2nd Division of the 3rd Corps. So it's kind of like, again, that sort of historical sort of linkage. And then the second officer I chose for these boys is this one here, sort of directing with his sort of long coat on. And originally I was going to have this guy as the colonel, but as I was sort of doing him, I realised that he hasn't got a sort of a colonel's puff on top of his shako, so I decided to make him the secondary officer, probably a lieutenant, I would have thought. And of course, again, the second eagle bearer protection over the halberd, and this guy, you can see that I've given him the slightly cowl pattern on his backpack for a little bit of a difference. And yeah, very pleased with this particular command group. You know that I always love, probably my favourite part of any battalion that I do is always the colour party. And I think these guys really are pretty damn cool. The only thing with the old Perrys is that I noticed that the British 69th haven't got those sort of tassels on their standard, and the French haven't got that sort of those sort of French flag ribbons they seem to have. But it's not the end of the world. So that's the command stand. And that's my favourite, I think. So that is it for this particular update. Let's just center these guys back up a little bit while I do my last little bit of waffling. So I suppose you could say that perhaps my painter's block is finally over. It doesn't feel to me as if it entirely is, but it's obvious that if I can pump these guys out in the time that I did, and the fact that I've actually managed to blow out my right knee, so I'm actually really hobbling around on basically 2 bad legs at the moment. Alas, the one day where I didn't actually do any painting at all, when I was basically in so much pain I couldn't really do anything. I think it's a pretty good. I think January's been a pretty good, productive month. Well, not January, February. It's been a really quite productive month as far as sort of painting goes. What I'm going to do next, I haven't really decided. I did something that I actually forgot to show you in the last update that I did. Let me just find them first. I'll put them. Oh yes, when I brought my British command party, I also picked up a box of French colonels from Perry's, and of course these guys are going to be brigade commanders, and I decided to get these guys because I really like the look of them, and their horses are like much better scale than the Warlord guys. So I'll just quickly give you a show of these guys. I did actually prime them as well. I might possibly do one of these guys next to zap up a brigade commander, but I haven't totally decided. Another thing that's sort of niggling on my mind is to do my second unit of chasseurs de cheval. But I mean, I haven't really decided yet, to tell the truth. And of course, there's still plenty of artillery to do as well. But I'll show you these guys anyway. I mean, there's one of them there. I think it's a pretty cool figure. And the second one, this guy's definitely, he definitely looks brigade commander material, this guy. And finally this guy. Again, really cool figure. I think it's a really good pack. I think I've mentioned before that the British equivalent is kind of put me off a little by the fact that it's got a Highland, a guy who can basically only be used as a sort of a Highland regiment colonel in it, which kind of you know, is kind of pretty much useless to me. But I do really like the Perry's British Colonel pack, other than that particular Highland officer. But I don't know if I'll eventually cave in and get it anyway, because I'm a little bit sort of undecided what to do about brigade commanders, because I mean I know in the starter set you had like the single guys on foot, and although they're nothing special, I do you know, I still do quite like those figures, but you know, I am going to basically replace them, but I was kind of sort of thinking about whether to just, you know, add them to one of the other sort of mounted guys' stands and use them that way, or you know, just keep them as brigade commanders themselves and try and use the other guys as something else, you know. But like I say, I mean, I suppose the Peninsular commander they've got would, because of their sort of bicorn hats, would make quite cool, you know, sort of higher command figures, rather than sort of colonels, or rather brigade commanders. Yeah, because you know, obviously these guys were back in sort of January when I got them, were sent to me by mistake by Waffling Games, and I want to use them, and it was just kind of deciding what to use them as, because I mean, I think, well, obviously I'm going to have 3 brigades, so I need 3 brigade commanders, and I suppose I could try and perhaps use one as either maybe a sort of as a general figure. I'm not really too sure, but yeah. Anyway, that's just waffling. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do next, but I'm sure you'll find out in a few weeks' time when I try and do my next update video. So until then, please comment, and if you wish to be notified of when I post new videos, please subscribe, and catch you next time. See you later.